July 1, 1863. The Confederate invasion of Pennsylvania is underway. Heath's Confederate division approaches Gettysburg from the Chambersburg Pike, the pike shown here in white. They encounter Federal cavalry under Buford northwest of town. However, Heath is running directly into forward elements of the Union Army. Buford's cavalry holds positions northwest of Gettysburg long enough for Reynolds and Howard's corps to arrive from the south. In this historical image, we are looking toward Gettysburg from the northwest. This is the direction by which A.P. Hill's corps approached town on July 1. We see the Chambersburg Pike highlighted in blue, the highway leading to town. In green, we can see the then unfinished railroad also leading to town. Beyond town, we can see Culp's Hill and Cemetery Hill in the distance. A.P. Hill's corps pushes towards town, the heights visible on their approach. Then from the north come elements of Ewell's corps from the north and northeast. So the Yankees are hit from the west and the north. Reynolds and Howard's corps sustain terrible casualties. Many units on both sides, including the Union's famed Iron Brigade, are shot to pieces. By the evening of July 1, the battered Union soldiers reform southeast of town around Cemetery Hill. Just east of Cemetery Hill is Culp's Hill. We will follow the flight of the Union Army from that historical image on the Chambersburg Pike through town. Now we are following the general direction of the Union retreat through town towards the heights. We approach Culp's Hill, seen here. Lee tells Ewell to strike and occupy Culp's Hill before nightfall. Lee uses the phrase, if practicable. Ewell has just replaced Stonewall Jackson, who died from a wound sustained at Chancellorsville. While Jackson would most certainly have understood Lee's suggestion to take the heights, Ewell is more cautious. Ewell waits for his fresh division, Johnson's division, to arrive. In the evening, Johnson's division approaches from the northeast along the Gettysburg and York Railroad, with brigades under Williams, sometimes shown as Nichols' Brigade, Jones, Steuart, and Walker. With the sun already fading, Ewell decides not to strike Culp's Hill on July 1. Meanwhile, Hancock is sent forward by Meade to take command of the field, as Meade is still en route to Gettysburg. General Reynolds is dead, and Howard's corps on Cemetery Hill is standing before a large portion of the Confederate Army. Hancock sees that a line needs to be solidified on Cemetery Hill. Culp's Hill is unoccupied. Wadsworth assembles Cutler's brigade on Culp's Hill. Cutler's brigade has sustained terrible losses on the first day. But Cutler's men fell trees and gather stones to form defenses on Culp's Hill. Through the evening of July 1, Culp's Hill is alive with the clatter and clanging of Union soldiers securing a wooded high ground. As the sun fades, battered and weary Union outfits hold the heights southeast of town. The first light rises on the morning of July 2nd. Let's take a closer look at the topography of Culp's Hill. Southeast of Gettysburg is Cemetery Hill, which has emerged as the center of the Union Army on July 2nd. Culp's Hill is directly to the east of Cemetery Hill, held by Wadsworth in the early morning. The rebels also have high ground, which is Benner or sometimes Benner's Hill above Culp's Hill. There is also to the east Wolf Hill, which is just out of the reach of both sides. Removing the tree cover shows the topography more clearly. Gettysburg is at 530 feet, Cemetery Hill is at 627 feet, Culp's Hill is at 633 feet, Benner's Hill is at 575 feet, and if either side could get artillery on Wolf Hill, they would be at a commanding height of 675 feet. The Union does start July 2nd with a height advantage over the rebels. We can zoom closer to Culp's Hill, which is outlined here in green. Culp's Hill actually consists of upper heights and lower heights. Rock Creek runs east of Culp's Hill, providing a low natural moat. This means an attack from the east will have the Confederates going down toward Rock Creek, cross the creek, and then scale up the creek towards the slopes of Culp's Hill. It is a minimum of 350 yards from Rock Creek to the heights on Culp's Hill, and other angles will be over 500 yards up the slopes. Culp's Hill could be attacked from the northwest, but that is less likely because Howard is assembled on Cemetery Hill to the west of Culp's Hill. The Union defenders can expect an attack from the northeast and east. Switching back to our satellite image, we can orient with Culp's Hill in green with the upper heights and the lower heights here. Rock Creek is in blue and the Baltimore Pike in white is directly west of Culp's Hill, where the Union Army has wagons and supplies. Directly to the northeast of Culp's Hill is Benner's Hill, where Johnson's division of Ewell's Corps is stationed. In the early dawn light of July 2nd, Wadsworth's division on the north face of Culp's Hill will be reinforced. Slocum's Corps has arrived at Culp's Hill with 2 divisions. Geary's division draws up on the eastern face of Culp's Hill. Williams' division establishes just across Rock Creek from Culp's Hill. There is a transfer of commands to temporarily adapt to the conditions on the field, so you may see Ruger instead of Williams on a map for the 1st Division, or you may see Williams instead of Slocum for the Corps commander. But I will keep the division under Williams and the Corps under Slocum consistent to avoid confusion. In addition, Sykes Corps has arrived around 5 a.m., expanding the Union right even further across Rock Creek. Zooming out, we can see the situation on the morning of July 2nd. Culp's Hill is here and contoured in green, which is at the barb of the Union fishhook line, which is now taking shape on July 2nd. Culp's Hill is the right terminus of the Union line. Meade sees Ewell facing him directly to the north. Meade anticipates the rebel attack to continue as it did the previous day from the north. Around 8 a.m. on July 2nd, Sykes Corps moves to the center of the Union line as a reserve. Then Williams moves his division onto Culp's Hill next to Geary's division. We will zoom back into Culp's Hill to get a closer look at the Union right. Slocum's Corps is arranged solidly on the eastern face of Culp's Hill. Geary's division covers the crest of the heights, with Greene on the upper slopes and Kane in the lower slopes. Candy is in support. Williams' division covers the lower slopes and south front of Culp's Hill, which follow down toward a marshy swale below. Williams' division protects Culp's Hill from the south. McDougall's brigade forms up on the lower slopes next to Kane. McDougall has an old farmer's stone wall to his back, which is still visible here, outlined in white. Below McDougall is Colgrove. Because of that temporary change of command, you might see Ruger in place of Colgrove, but I will keep it consistent again to avoid confusion. A marshy swale creates poor low ground to defend south of Culp's Hill, so Colgrove divides his brigade to situate on better ground on either side of the meadow. Just south of the swale, Colgrove's brigade forms a partial square, covering its flanks. Colgrove has his regiments make breastworks in the woods there, forming a strong right flank for the Union Army. Finally, Lockwood's brigade forms up near Colgrove. Williams' division is thus the extreme right of the entire Federal Army. Back at the top of Culp's Hill is Greene's brigade. Brigadier General George Sears Greene, or Pap or Old Man Greene, is one of the oldest generals on the field at 62. Pap was a skilled civil engineer with significant urban building projects under his belt. One of Greene's students at West Point was Robert E. Lee. Greene's fortress building is contagious. Kane's brigade below him follows his lead, strengthening lower Culp's Hill. Greene had the foresight to build a traverse that ran at a right angle to his breastworks. This traverse, shown here in yellow, could be used to protect his right flank and secure Upper Culps Hill should the lower portion fall. Such foresight would be critical. On the north face of Upper Culps Hill, Wadsworth's men also dig in. By noon, Slocum's men have developed a system of fortified lodgments along the east line of Culps Hill. As the morning progresses and the hours pass with no action, Meade is nervous that Lee may surprise him. He asks Slocum about the possibility of striking the rebels first, hitting Ewell from Culps Hill. Slocum reports that Culps Hill is good ground to hold, and it would be better to hold it than to go on the offensive and risk losing it. Meade will make Ewell try to take it. Slocum's observation is sound. The Union hold on Culps Hill is very secure on the morning of July 2nd. Then the long-awaited rebel attack begins. Zooming out, we can see Culps Hill highlighted where Slocum's corps is located. On the afternoon of July 2nd, Longstreet hits the opposite side of the Union Army. Sickles' corps is in danger, as are the exposed heights on the Union left. In concert with Longstreet's attack on the left, Ewell will now set his chess pieces in play on the Union right. Let's zoom back in to Culps Hill. Ewell activates artillery on Benner's Hill northeast of Culps Hill. From the Union position on Culps Hill looking east, with the upper heights on the left and the lower heights on the right, we can see where Johnson is positioned near Benner's Hill. Let's fly over Culps Hill to the rebel heights at Benner's Hill. From this position on Benner's Hill, we can see the rebel vantage point on Culps Hill. From Benner Hill, we can see how wooded Culps Hill is. Benner's Hill slopes down to Rock Creek before rising back up to Culps Hill. So the attacking Confederates have numerous natural obstacles. We can also see Big Round Top some 2 miles in the distance. That far flank is under attack at this time on July 2nd. At 4 p.m., Latimer's artillery opens up from Benner's Hill. However, the guns on Cemetery Hill are higher than the guns on Benner's Hill. The rebel cannon on Benner's Hill are easily checked. After 2 hours, the rebel artillery is unable to continue to fire. Let's zoom back out. While Johnson's artillery barrage on Culps Hill is a failure, the situation becomes more desperate on the Union left. Meade needs to send more support to defend the Union left. With the rebel cannon at Benner's Hill silenced, and Ewell's infantry still not observed in attacking formation, Meade decides to send Slocum's corps to support the left flank. Let's go back to Culps Hill. About 6:30 p.m., Williams' division is called to the Union left to support Sickles. So are Kane and Candy's brigade from Geary's division. This leads the lodgments on lower Culps Hill unoccupied. This left only one brigade from Slocum's division on Culps Hill, Greene's brigade. So only Greene's brigade holds the entire eastern face of Culps Hill. The plucking of units from Culps Hill is all going according to Lee's plans. Although starting later in the day than Lee wanted, his strategy is working. Lee's plan is to hit the Union left, diverting resources from the Union right. And once these resources have been diverted from the Union right, Ewell will strike that deflated flank. Johnson's division assembles to attack. Jones' brigade is on the rebel right with Williams below him. Williams is sometimes shown as Nichols. Steuart is on the rebel left wing. It is Greene's 1,400-man brigade versus Johnson's 4,700-man division. It's one of the rare times that the South will have numbers on their side. If the rebels secure Culps Hill, not only will the Union right be taken, but the Union supply wagons and artillery that sit undefended on the Baltimore Pike below will be vulnerable to seizure. At 6 p.m., Johnson's infantry advances. They move down toward Rock Creek and cross the waters, approaching Culp's Hill. Let's take a closer look at the action. Greene's brigade is square with Cutler's brigade on the upper slope of Culp's Hill. At the junction with Cutler is the 78th New York under von Hammerstein with 200 men. To its right is the 60th New York under Godard with 273 men, followed by the 102nd New York under Lane with 248 men, followed by the 149th New York under Barnum with 319 men. On the far right is the 137th New York under Ireland with 456 men. The 137th New York, being the extreme right of the Union Army, has a traverse, shown here in yellow, to its rear, prepared by Greene in the event that it needs to bend back. Greene stretches his New York brigade out to cover the vacant slopes and empty breastworks to his right along the lower slopes of Culp's Hill. The 137th New York, forming the right of their brigade, moves into the empty lodgements built by Kane's regiment. The 78th New York under von Hammerstein moves forward in skirmish formation. As soon as they deploy down the slope, they are hit by the incoming rebel advance. The 78th falls back to the breastworks, filling in to the right of the 107th New York. Jones's brigade is first on the slopes, followed by Williams, then Steuart. Jones' brigade goes up the rocky, wooded upper height. In front is the 48th Virginia under Dungan on the left, and the 42nd Virginia under Richardson in the center, and the 50th Virginia under Salyer on the right. Jones receives a solid volley of rifle. The firing intensifies. Fighting commences between Jones and the 60th New York. The attacks continue. The Confederates hit again. Jones is wounded. Command falls to Dungan. The 48th Virginia takes 36% casualties. Jones wavers on the right, pulling back toward the creek. But Williams' brigade continues the fight on Upper Culp's Hill. The Louisianans hit Greene's center, striking the 102nd New York and the 149th New York. The 78th New York relieves the 102 New York. The New Yorkers will employ, to great effect, a steady regiment in, regiment out firing line on Culp's Hill. The 1st Louisiana under Willett and the 14th Louisiana under Zabel break through the breastworks, but they are forced to retreat. The New Yorkers have held the rebel attack on the upper slopes for 2 hours. Von Hammerstein of the 78th New York recalled, having commanded this regiment the first time in action, its strength being not more than 200, I am fully satisfied with the conduct of officers and men. They fought with cool determination, like good soldiers and brave men. The fight rolls down towards the lower slopes of Culp's Hill. Steuart approaches the far edge of the Union right, which is not only the right of Greene's brigade, but the extreme right of the whole Union Army. The approach to the lower slopes is more gradual, making it easier for the attackers to approach. Steuart takes the vacant southern entrenchments. Then Steuart advances further up the slope, securing the stone wall. Ireland's 137th New York readies itself. At 8 o'clock, the extreme right flank of the Union Army is now in jeopardy. Just as the 20th Maine at the extreme left was hit earlier that day at Little Round Top, now the extreme right is hit at Culp's Hill. Steuart strikes. The 149th New York and 137th New York come under fire. Steuart's 3rd North Carolina under Parsley and 1st Maryland under Herbert are in front of the brigade. They progress up the hill, taking heavy losses. The left wing of Steuart's brigade is ordered up on the double. The 23rd Virginia under Walton takes vacated breastworks. Steuart's regiments now occupy entrenchments on the extreme right of the Union line. The Virginian regiments on the left advance up the gradual slope to the south. As Steuart advances up the vulnerable slopes on the Union right, Greene calls for reinforcements from Reynolds and Howard's corps. The 10th Virginia under Warren pushes further along the stone wall up the lower slope. The 10th Virginia is on the extreme left of the rebel line. The 10th Virginia is under a colonel named Warren, an ironic mirror image of what happened on the extreme Union left at Little Round Top on this day. Casualties mount up as darkness falls. Above on the upper slopes, reinforcements from several regiments of Howard and Reynolds' corps arrive right on time, relieving the New Yorkers who are now low on ammunition and exhausted. Reinforcements also arrive on the lower slopes. The 71st Pennsylvania under Smith from Hancock's corps, the California Regiment, arrives. Smith's Pennsylvanians form on the right of Ireland, but Smith pulls back, leaving the New Yorkers alone again to hold the line. Then a regiment from Reynolds' corps, the 6th Wisconsin under Dawes from Wadsworth's division, reinforces the 137th New York. The 6th Wisconsin makes a move to the right. The 10th Virginia and 23rd Virginia strike. Despite the advantages of topography, entrenchments, and darkness, the 137th New York will sustain 30% losses. The 137th New York bends. The Union right is breaking. Ireland's 137th New York and the 6th Wisconsin pull out of Kane's entrenchments. The 136th takes to the Traverse, the defensive work that Pap Greene had built for just this time. The 6th Wisconsin, already broken from the previous day's fight, withdraws. The 137th New York refuses its line, meaning it forms a right angle at its flank. This movement on the extreme right of the Union line is the identical action performed by Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain on the extreme left of the Union line just hours earlier. And Ireland, who is now being hit from all sides, does just what Chamberlain did hours before. Companies from Ireland's 137th do a bayonet charge down the slope, driving the 10th Virginia back temporarily. Then relief comes. Another regiment from Wadsworth joins the Union right. The 84th New York, also called the 14th Brooklyn, under Fowler approaches, halting the rebel advance. As night approaches, the rebels pull off the attack. Jones and Williams retreat to Rock Creek, but Steuart remains on the lower slopes in the captured lodgements. The Virginians then reform with other Virginian regiments along the captured breastworks. Let's zoom out on the night of July 2. With Longstreet's attack repulsed on the Union left, Slocum's corps, including Williams' division and 2 brigades from Geary's division, are sent back to Culp's Hill. At 10 o'clock, Slocum arrives back at Culp's Hill. Geary's division approaches the slopes. Kane's brigade attempts to move back toward their original breastworks, but find them occupied by Steuart. It is 10 o'clock. Kane pulls back for the night. Williams' division is also returning from the Union left. McDougall's brigade moves forward to check the works they had abandoned earlier that day. They find the Confederates occupying these works in force. Then Colgrove's brigade, sometimes shown as Ruger's brigade, approaches their former works on Lower Culp's Hill from the south. Colgrove sends the 2nd Massachusetts under Mudge forward as skirmishers. They find the lowest of the entrenchments are unoccupied. However, they capture some rebels who tell them that the works are occupied further up the slopes. Williams does not know the enemy's strength or position. It is too dark to attack. Since it is too dark to make an advance, Colgrove situates on the lowest of the entrenchments just below the small creek south of Lower Culp's Hill. Significant portions of the southern slope of Culp's Hill remain in rebel hands in the late hours of July 2nd. Steuart has succeeded in penetrating the extreme right of the Union Army, securing the lower heights of Culp's Hill. Sporadic firing is heard here and there through the night. During the night, both sides will find water near Spangler's Spring here. Both sides will move chess pieces in the darkness. On the rebel side, Walker's brigade is brought down from behind Benner's Hill to the area behind the captured breastworks to support Steuart. 2 brigades from Rhodes' divisions, one under Daniel and one under O'Neill, are moved from the area near town to reinforce Johnson. Heavy volleys are thrown between the two sides at 1 in the morning. Candy's brigade returns at 1:30 a.m., reinforcing Greene. Geary's division is now re-established on the upper slopes of Culp's Hill. Another round of volleys interrupts the night at 2 a.m. Artillery is moved into position. Lockwood's brigade arrives on the Union side, that brigade added to Williams' strength. On the Confederate side, Smith's brigade from Early's division moves from near town to support Johnson's extreme left flank. He brings 3 Virginian regiments to the extreme left of the Confederate army, forming a right angle to the creek. While Ewell might be confident that he can seize the initiative the following morning, Meade has his own plans. We often think of the Union as being on the defensive at Gettysburg, but Culp's Hill is an example of the Union taking the offensive at Gettysburg. In twilight, the right flank of the Union Army will attempt to dislodge the rebels from the southern slopes of Culp's Hill. At 4 a.m. on July 3rd, Union artillery barrages the rebels. Artillery from Powers Hill and McAllister's Hill erupts. Slocum's counterattack begins. The Confederates are not going to sit and take artillery fire. They renew their attack on the heights. At morning light, O'Neill's Alabamian brigade from Rhodes' division goes up the hills. Williams pushes forward up the slopes towards Greene's front on the upper heights. Steuart pushes up along the lower heights below. Walker then moves, supporting Steuart. All available Federal artillery turns on the rebels. Williams' Louisiana Brigade advances to 100 yards from the Federal entrenchments at the crest of Upper Culp's Hill. But Greene is not alone today. Candy's brigade is here. Greene and Candy can now switch out regiments in the front trenches about every 45 minutes, replenishing the line with fresh men and ammunition. Continuous fire is thrown on the rebels. Let's zoom in on the critical lower slope. On the lower slope, Steuart's division realigns along the breastworks in the following order from top to bottom. 3rd North Carolina, 1st Maryland, 37th Virginia, 23rd Virginia, and 1st North Carolina prepare to attack. The brigade throws itself forward, taking artillery and then rifle fire. Steuart advances along the stone wall, highlighted in white on this map. Kane and Candy's brigades are above him, throwing fire down the slope. Then Lockwood advances from the south, hitting Steuart's flank. 2 Maryland regiments advance to relieve Geary's right, one regiment under Malsby and the other under Wallace. Malsby's 1st Potomac Maryland Home Brigade engages Steuart, driving to the stone wall. Wallace's 1st Eastern Shore Maryland Regiment advances. As fate would have it, the 1st Maryland Confederate Battalion approaches from Steuart's side, and the Union Marylanders throw a terrible volley into their Confederate cousins. A horrible example of Marylander versus Marylander, brother versus brother. Colonel Wallace of the 1st Eastern Shore Maryland related the painful realization, stating, "From the prisoners taken, we have been credibly informed that the enemy we fought was the 1st Maryland Rebel Regiment." The 150th New York under Ketchum relieves the Union Marylanders. Then the 107th New York under Crane from Colgrove's brigade supports the Marylanders. Steuart's attack is faltering under the increasing pressure. Let's zoom back out to wider Culp's Hill. So Kane, Candy, and Lockwood have halted Steuart on the lower slopes. Now we will zoom in to the upper slopes. Greene's New Yorkers are in their lodgements that they have held since yesterday. On Greene's right is a determined North Carolina regiment under Von Brown from Daniel's brigade, throwing waves of deadly fire into Union lines. At the same time, O'Neill's Alabamians strike up the upper slopes. O'Neill describes the Union fortifications as a log fort, illustrating how well defended the Yankees are. 4 Alabama regiments hit the spur of Upper Culp's Hill. They take positions on the slopes, but are subjected to terrible fire. Greene and Canby's New Yorkers switch out regiments at regular intervals, continuing their conveyor belt defense. They switch out again. The rebel attack is repulsed. O'Neill's Alabamians pull off the slopes. Let's zoom back out. Momentum is now in favor of the Union. At about 10 a.m., the Union counterattack on Steuart continues. McDougall's brigade is now in action, also pushing up against Steuart's left. Steuart tries to rally along the stone wall, but his brigades are forced to retreat to the creek. Daniel and Walker's brigades fall back too. Cheers roll down Culp's Hill as the rebels withdraw from the works. Then Colgrove is ordered forward. We will take a closer look at Colgrove's counterattack. Colgrove must go over open ground over a marshy swale below the lower heights of Culp's Hill, highlighted here in green. Smith's brigade waits on the other side of the swale behind the stone wall in white. Colgrove doesn't like the terrain, but he is ordered to support the counterattack. The only way over the marshy swale is to charge forward. He orders forward the 2nd Massachusetts under Mudge on the left and the 22nd Indiana under Fezler on the right. As they cross the swale, they encounter heavy fire. The 2 regiments continue to advance across the marsh, taking heavy losses. They begin to ascend Lower Culp's Hill. Another deadly volley rolls down the slopes. The Yankees fall back to the breastworks. Then Smith's Virginians counterattack. They cross into the open. Colgrove prepares his remaining regiments in the breastworks. They fire on Smith's Virginians. The rebel attack falters. Colgrove orders the 3rd Wisconsin under Hawley to follow. The Wisconsin men retake the breastworks on Lower Culp's Hill. Zooming back out, we can see the rebel foothold on Culp's Hill falling away. As morning turns to afternoon, Johnson has been driven from the lodgements on Culp's Hill. Walker makes one more push up the slopes, but is beaten back. Colgrove has retaken the lower foothold of Culp's Hill. McDougall's brigade enters the empty lodgements on Lower Culp's Hill. After a whole morning and early afternoon of fighting, Slocum's corps has repulsed the Confederate attack on Culp's Hill. The Confederates fall back to Rock Creek below. By driving the rebels from Culp's Hill by early morning, Robert E. Lee is deprived of the opportunity to coordinate Pickett's planned attack with a simultaneous hit on the Union right.